Hey y'all, welcome to Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. I'm Mandy. I'm just a mom sitting down with real Texas teachers talking about what's going on in our schools. Today, I'm joined by Jen, a 19-year teacher right here in Central Texas of second and third graders. And Jen is ready to say the quiet parts out loud. She's going to share with us just exactly what is going on inside the school system. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's hear it. Tell me why you are here to talk about the education system and how it's not serving those that it really is built to serve.
Well, I feel that the system is rigged. Education is rigged, and at the detriment of students, teachers, and parents. And that's why we're here, for students and their parents. And our hands are tied many times in being able to meet students' needs, and something needs to change.
I couldn't have said it better myself. The system is rigged against students, first and foremost, and the success and the potential parents who just want to see their children launch and be successful, and the teachers who are in our classrooms doing their best every day. And yet, you all are not being served by the leadership within the system so that you can educate the next generation of Texans. Can you talk to us a little bit? Tell us about what is going on in the classrooms that is causing issues for our great Texas teachers.
Well, I feel like we have the word differentiation is the term that we are told. You need to differentiate for each and every student. Those are the buzzwords, which is wonderful in theory. But when you have a class of 18 to 24 students, every student has different needs. You may have a student in third grade that is at a above sixth grade level in math or reading, and you may have a student that's at a pre-K level. And you have to meet those students where they're at. I'm one person. Teachers are one person. It becomes impossible. And we have heartbreak on that because we want to do the best for these kids and we want to get them where they need to be. But again, we're one person. And to differentiate a classroom of 24 is not a realistic.
It's impossible.
It is. It is absolutely impossible. And I feel like we are failing all of our kids because of that, because we can't meet their needs. You have one student that's here, you want to push them higher, and you have one student that's here that needs to learn how to read.
Well, that opens up a great point, particularly on the reading aspect. We know across the state of Texas that 50% of kids cannot read on grade level. You mentioned to me that you see and know about kids in your own area who are in 5th grade and can't read, 4th grade, can't read. How and why are their children? Because we know if a child can't read by the end of 3rd grade, there is a 97% guarantee they will never read on grade level. They will never reach their full potential. How is our system set up, and why are these kids ending up in 4th, 5th, 6th, and above?
Well, from my personal experience in education, we're not meeting their needs. They're not in the right placement often. You may have a student that is autistic, somewhat high functioning, but they have emotional issues that as a classroom teacher, I'm not equipped to help that student with. They're in a general ed classroom with all of the students, and my best friend, I think, said it best. She said, we are setting these students up. Actually, she said, we're indoctrinating these students. And I thought, whoa, those are some harsh words. To be in situations of domestic violence. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's an educator. She said, think about it. What happens with one of your students, emotionally disturbed students, drops some papers out of their folder? what happens? I'm like, well, the kids immediately go up and try to help that student. No, I've got it. It's okay. Let me help you. Which you would think, and that's great. They're helping.
Normal.
But it's not. They're doing it because they're walking on eggshells because they don't want that student to have a meltdown.
Oh.
Because they've watched their teacher be choked. They've watched their other classmates be assaulted. They've watched chairs thrown. They've watched a classroom destroyed all in front of them until that student is removed. Now, when the student is removed, the whole class has to be removed first. So we're losing 30 minutes plus instruction time, and they don't want that to happen.
Oh my goodness.
So that is what she meant by we're indoctrinating these kids because they are trying to deal with it. They don't want this child to be set off. They just want a normal school day.
To learn.
Yes, to learn.
Oh, that is awful. I've never thought about it in that way, but that does make perfect sense.
I have never thought of that either. And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right.
Because that is not what we want to do.
No.
We're here to help all of these kids to make their lives better and to be good citizens.
That's right.
And that really, it hurt.
Oh, that is a whole nother level. My goodness. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is.
So let's go back to outside of indoctrinating children to think that it's normal to appease those that have severe mental and behavioral problems, which it's not. Those individuals need to be in the right environment that's curated for them. So you said that, okay, so students are removed. So let's talk, there's obviously learning loss with that. But then that happens, a student's removed, and then what happens usually with that students? Because some teachers tell me that they end up at the office for 30 minutes. Here's a juice box, here's a bag of goldfish or whatever, and then they're sent right back to the classroom. Do you know about any of this?
I have heard, yes, that is a common occurrence. I have had a good relationship with principals that they know what we're dealing with, and they try. They try really hard, but our hands are tied with what perceived regulations may or may not be.
Can we talk about that?
Sure, we can do that.
The perceived regulations. So we know that 99.9% of public schools in Texas utilize the guidance provided by the Texas Association of School Boards.
Yes.
The board book, I believe is what it's called. And that is where the rules and regulations that are interpreted are handed down. And that is what they're saying you must do.
Yes.
Okay. So the interpretation of the laws from the Texas Association of School Boards that comes to your trustees, to your principals and administrators, tells you all what? What are you told?
We're told that we can't have students out of placement if they're a special education student. They cannot be out of placement for more than 10 days. And if they are, we have to have MDR, I think is what it's called. It's we meet, we discuss what the situation is, what the behavior is. And from many administrators throughout Central Texas, I've been told we can't do anything because the behavior is a direct result of the child's diagnosis. And I'm sitting there going, you don't know any of these students. How can you blanket statement that?
Yeah. So again, from what I hear from a lot of teachers that want their voices shared, they tell me, like what you are, that these 504s, which oftentimes address behavioral issues, and the IEPs,
which are for
educational, the ARDS for educational purposes, that oftentimes when a child is misbehaving out of control, dangerous, that it's being blamed because teachers aren't meeting what is laid out in their instructional, their individual educational program is supposed to be. And so you're blamed for a kid throwing chairs and...
Yes, often. It's presented as we're not meeting that child's needs. We need to change the IEP. I don't know that we can meet some of these children's needs.
Yeah.
We're not equipped. Right. We are not trained. And training teachers to be psychologists is not the answer.
That's right.
I mean, we've been trained in everything, which many of it is very important, but our plate is only this big.
Right.
And you keep piling trainings, we're missing the whole purpose of being an educator and helping our students.
And these children are in the wrong environment.
Absolutely.
They need to be in an environment that's curated, particularly those children, their needs. That's right.
Absolutely.
So it really is about getting children in the right environment.
Absolutely.
What is happening to these children that teachers are trying to get some special services for? I've heard stories about teachers trying to get special services, trying to get children in the right environment. And for one reason or another, kids are being sent back into the classroom, the wrong environment. They're falling behind, disrupting other students. Do you know anything about that? Have you heard? I'm hearing this from a lot of teachers.
It's common, unfortunately. Okay. We teachers, we want the best for our students.
Of course.
And if we see a student is struggling and may have signs of a learning disability, well, the first thing we want to do is get them tested so we can figure out what's going on. Right. That in itself is a struggle to get a child tested. You have to have just copious amounts of documentation on what kind of intervention you've done as a teacher, what manipulatives have you used to help this child learn. You have to document it all, and it takes quite a while.
Yeah.
Then, once that's accepted, a student is often, and I've heard this many times, their IQ may be too low, and their strengths are too low. They don't have enough to work with. So they get put back. I know it sounds insane.
I'm sorry to stop you. It sounds insane. I'm a little confused. So you know about teachers. This is common that teachers send children that they can see are struggling because a great teacher wants to help every child succeed. So you send them after documenting everything and saying this child is not progressing, this child is having problems. And because they test too low, not too high.
No.
They test too low. Their intelligence is too low and their skill set is too low. So then they just send them back into the same classroom?
Yes.
With what? Like, why?
With no accommodations.
Okay.
With no modifications, with nothing. I don't know why.
Is this?
I have tried to get this explained to me. I have researched it myself, and it makes no sense to me. I'm told they are too low and they're working with what they have. Well, one example was this kid is riding the bike. They're pedaling as fast as they can go. I said, put a chain on the bike and let's see. Give them what they need.
That's right.
Help them. But they return to general ed classrooms and teachers tell me, why is this? I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But it's a failure. It is an epic failure. We cannot do these are students. I've had students in my years of teaching that I think about, wonder what happened to them. Yeah. Because we didn't put the chain on the bike. And had we, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
It is emotional.
What could they have done if we had taught them just basic skills? They don't need to write a personal narrative.
Right.
They don't need to take the SAT and go to college, some of them. Some of them probably could have, but we did nothing.
How high? So you're 19 years in?
Yes, ma'am.
How heartbreaking is it to think of those kids that you know fell through
You're going to make me cry.
Well, I think you said it. The system's rigged.
It is rigged against the ones that it's supposed to be helping.
Right. So let's talk about teachers. You mentioned, so we've talked a lot about students, particularly our special needs students. Those students are that are in the wrong environment.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about teachers. Part of the parent empowerment movement as a parent, I want the teachers in my children's classrooms to make a good living for the great work that they do. No teacher goes in to get rich, right?
No.
Right. But they should be paid a good living. In the past 50 years, we can see that we've increased per pupil funding.
Yes.
This is according to the National Center for Education Statistics out of the Department of Education that tracks it all across the country. Texas has increased our per pupil funding by 166% in the past 50 years. And we've increased our teacher pay by just 16%. But great teachers don't go there for the money. Now we got to address that. But what I hear from teachers, along the same lines of the system is rigged, is trying to make you all psychologists, behavioral therapists, trying to make you jump through these hoops. Parents.
They want us to parent.
They want you to parent. They want you to, you said it, they just keep piling everything on you. What I hear from teachers that leave the classroom, while they want to be paid, and we're fighting to make sure that money goes into that classroom, it's because of the system that gaslights you.
Yes.
That puts too much burden on you, expects you to be superwoman every day. Can you talk about teachers are leaving? You tell me they leave because of the culture and the environment and the expectations. Can you talk to me about what you know and what you've seen with your peers?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the most glaring and obvious things I see, there's no one my age. I'm like the grandma of where I'm at.
Okay.
Because nobody makes it that long anymore. We used to, March, April, May, we would get retirement notices, 10, 15 of them.
Okay.
You know, so-and-so's retirement, we'd have a big party. We don't have those anymore.
And it takes 20 years to be...
It depends on where, you know, when you started, your age. It used to be, I'm under the rule of 80.
Okay.
My age plus my time in has to equal 80.
Okay.
Now it's 90. Who can do that? I don't know.
Okay.
But it's become impossible with all of the expectations we have. As far as culture, teachers, it's the best. They're like family. Yeah. Our administrators that we have on campuses, you could go into any school and you're going to see that camaraderie. You're going to see, I mean, we're here for a reason.
Right.
But making it to retirement, I mean, my co-teachers who are all, could be my children, they're that young, they're like, I don't think I can do this. And I hate to say this, but I tell them, I don't know that I could do that. 20 years ago, it was a different story. 10 years ago, it was a different story.
What changed?
I ask that question all the time. What changed? Is it parenting? Is it... I don't know what's changed as far as what is causing people to leave. It is behavior and discipline. That is one of the main things. Pay me more. I would love, I could get paid a lot more. Sure. I have skill sets before I became a teacher.
Yes.
And some of my teacher friends will get mad at me for saying this. I don't want a pay raise. I just want help to help my students. I will forego a pay raise if I can get my students what they need to succeed.
And part of that would be control of your classroom?
Yes.
Big part of that?
Big part of that. I don't want my students to be in fear.
I don't either.
And this has been one of the roughest years in teaching that I've heard from not just my people I work with, but in other districts throughout the state of Texas. It has been extremely rough. We're blamed for a student not knowing how to tie their shoes in the 3rd grade. We don't teach that. That's something a parent is expected to do. But I can't tell a parent that because it's not my place.
Okay.
I'm not to tell a parent.
But there are things that children should be expected to come to
their
school.
Pants. And in the environment that we teach in, I'm not going to button a child's pants because I'm not going to be accused or put myself in a situation where I can be accused of doing something. We have students that can't go to the restroom by themselves because
in general education.
In general education, yes. They cannot go to the restroom by themselves because they have a history of being violent and or sexual in the restroom, so they cannot go by themselves. I can't take a student to the restroom. I have my entire other class.
Right.
Teachers, we can't leave our classroom for one student. That student is not in the correct placement. And
you say placement. They're not, I say they're not in the right environment. They're not in the right class, or they're not in the right school. Right?
Yes. Placement, meaning they're not getting, whether it be special ed or dyslexia or getting occupational therapy or behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
My classroom, I can't give that to them. I give social and emotional learning. That's required by the state. We do that every morning.
What does that mean?
It's trying to get students to talk about their feelings and feel comfortable. Like so-and-so, I do a thing where it's called, I have an aha, which, I learned this today, and I like to share.
Yeah.
I have an acknowledgement. Susie did blah, 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 or I did something and I want to share, or an apology. It's where I need to apologize to my classmate, my teacher, my mom. I should have done this, but I didn't. Or I said this and I hurt their feelings and I shouldn't have. Just getting them to be good people, to learn how to control and understand their emotions, social and emotional learning. And we do that.
And the majority of kids can do this.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So there's a few kids that are put in the general ed classes that cause 90% of the issues.
Oh, I would say so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're not in the right placement.
I feel that through my experience that they're not.
Yeah.
We are not therapists.
Right.
We are not. I'm not a behavioral therapist.
Right.
We have those in districts. However, it may be one per several campuses. We have, I think, at the school that I have been at for a while, we've had anywhere between 400 and 800 students. That's a lot of kids. And when you have several students that need this in each grade level, one person between 2 or 3 schools is not, we're not getting it done. It's not because we're not trying.
Right.
The people that teach, there's some bad apples, sure, but the majority are wonderful human beings that want better for our kids so that we have a better society and that our kids have a better society. We're here for that.
Yes, you're here for the children.
Teachers drive themselves into the ground trying to meet all of those expectations and trying to meet each of those kids where they need to be or where they're at and get them where they need to be, to the point where we drive ourselves emotionally nuts.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
And that's
you come
why you
home
leave.
in tears. That's why people leave. Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about the administration and that you personally have had great administration and principals to work with, but across the board in Texas, we know, particularly in the last 5-6 years, that for every 3 teachers hired, there's 1 admin.
Yes.
High paid, double, triple, quadruple salary of teachers in there doing the work. I've even had a teacher tell me that, very frustrated with the situation, that an admin showed up and said, and not knowing why they were there, the admin just said, I was bored. I just came to watch. How do teachers feel? How do you feel? How do you teachers that you talk to feel about this exponential growth in administrators when your plate just keeps getting piled higher and higher in the classroom?
I feel that teachers, we feel we don't matter. And we do matter. If it weren't for the teachers, the upper admin would not be there.
That's right.
And it's very, I don't even know what the word is. It's disappointing, and it defeats us every day when we can't get the supplies we need. We can't get paper. We can't get toner. But yet I know there are people making 4 times what I make.
Right.
And I've been doing this longer. And it's throughout the state of Texas.
Yeah,
and it's got to stop. There should not be 4 tiers in every level of upper admin. When a classroom that needs a paraprofessional for behaviors or for extra help in math with students, we can't get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
And for someone to say they're bored, I don't know how I would respond to that.
Yeah.
I would probably have to walk out.
Right. Yeah, it's frustrating to see because I would say in the classroom, the teachers in the school building, the teachers are the most important person.
We're with those kids 8 hours a day.
I know that. That's it. That's it. The most important people in a child's education and their success is their parents and their teachers. It's frustrating to constantly see and this growth, this incredibly rapid growth. It's also sad to see. I've had people tell me that teachers that left the classroom to become an admin to get away from the discipline problems, but also because it's easier and higher pay. So they go through whatever courses that you're supposed to go through to become an admin. I don't know what they are, and that they just kind of, if you can't beat them, join them mentality.
That's what I hear a lot. I hear that quite often. Teachers, we're at our wits' end. Mm-hmm. Some of us can't afford to live. Mm-hmm. And I personally make about $8,000 more than a starting teacher, a brand new teacher.
Yeah.
I know I make...
With 19 years experience.
With 19 years. I have a master's degree. Many, many teachers have master's degrees. Right. I have one in curriculum instruction. So I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And to have someone that maybe not as experienced or who has not been in the classroom, maybe not at all, mm-hmm. to get off easy almost. It's like you're letting us down, mm-hmm. because we're losing good teachers.
Yeah.
That they can't take it anymore. They can't take the pay. They can't take the discipline. They cannot take the workload. And the amount of paperwork we do is unreal. If I got paid by paper or computer tabs that I click, I would be very rich. Mm-hmm. It's just very defeating. And to try to be heard, yeah. I hear all the time from teachers throughout districts in Texas. They feel like they're almost bullied when they try to speak up, because it's almost a teacher-student relationship rather than we're working together. We're all here for a common goal.
It's almost like you're bullied by the administration?
I've heard that. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have heard that. I've heard teachers have told me they've been told, do not talk about that. Maybe it's about new curriculum we have coming up. Mm-hmm. No, you don't. But isn't that the whole point, is getting our opinion? And the teacher is told, no, this is what it is.
Have you heard of any teachers being, you said bullied, being disciplined or ostracized or criticized because they have tried to speak up for their classrooms?
I have heard that. That is a common thread. Teachers don't want to speak up because mm-hmm. they can't lose their job.
Right.
I mean, they have families. I have 2 kids in college. I'm right at the retirement door. Mm-hmm. I don't want to jeopardize that, but I want what's right.
Right.
And I want what is best for my kids. Teachers, we're the ones. Yeah. It's not, yes, we need to have an upper admin. We need that. But I think we've lost touch with why we are here. We are not here to drive fancy cars. I have a Toyota Avalon that the hailstorm dented it, and I'm still driving it because that's okay.
That's right.
I'm not here to
That's not what matters to you.
It's not what matters to me. I joke with my kids, look at my hoopty, because it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's not why I'm here.
Right.
We have to get back to why we're here, which is a buzzword in education. Remember your why.
Okay.
Don't ask a teacher to remember their why.
All right.
We're here. We know our why.
Right.
That's the buzzword. Remember your why. That's when we're frustrated. Remember your why. I've watched on the internet.
Simon Sinek.
Yes.
he does that.
Yes.
The why. Yes.
And don't ask me my why. That is insulting to me.
Right.
I know my why. Those students are my why.
Right.
This society is my why.
So that's right. The love of America and Texas and wanting to see us continue to prosper.
Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So, you say that. I have heard teachers tell me that, and I've heard teachers tell me they feel that has been a manipulation tactic.
Yeah, that, and we're here for the kids. We're doing it for the kids.
Right.
Really? I had no idea that's why I'm here. Don't tell me that. That you're trying to guilt trip me or teachers into doing things that normal jobs would not ask you to do.
Right.
Because you're guilting that person into, well, it's for the kids. It's all about the kids.
Right.
Well, we know it's all about the kids. That's why we're here.
Yeah. That's right. I do hear that a lot, and it does, because I'm with you.
Very common.
It's a very it's gaslighting
at its finest.
Here, you care about the kids, so here, also be their mental health therapist. Here, also be their cleaner. Here, also watch them use foul language, or, oh, that gotcha. You dealing with that too?
Oh, yes.
I have a lot of teachers that say, what are they supposed to do?
We have in most public schools, in elementary school, we have kinder through 5th. Yes, it's been a long time since I was personally in kinder through 5th. I can't imagine being that. Or for my daughters, they've heard it. They grew up with it. And I tell them, honey, you're going to deal with people like that all the time, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
And we have kindergartners that have to hear this language that would make a sailor blush.
Right. And can you discipline the kids that say the foul language?
We can.
You can?
Teachers absolutely can.
Good.
I know I have heard in past that teachers were told you can't discipline that child because there's special education. I've say that is not true, and show me in the law where it states that it doesn't.
No.
And that's another thing. Teachers need to advocate for themselves. Get in and read the laws. Teachers are not here to get students.
Right.
If you are in the wrong profession. We're here to help students.
Right.
So the more you know as a teacher, as an educator, and the parents too, you've got to know what these laws are, because many school districts are not going to say we have to do this, or we can't do that, or we won't do that, unless the teacher or the student, or I'm sorry, the parent asks. And most parents don't know to ask. They don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
So teachers and parents need to educate themselves on the law. It's not hard. I Googled it.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
And especially with AI, you could just tell them what you want.
Pops up. I love it
pops
now.
up. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But know what the laws are.
Yeah.
We've got to stop gaslighting our parents with and our teachers with, we can't do this, or we can't do that because we can.
Right.
And I think, I don't know if it's a lack of education that these individuals don't know what they're saying, or I don't know. I just know that I have heard that many, many times. Oh, we can't do anything. We can't write them up. Yes, you can.
Right. There can be a consequence.
Yes, they're neat. And that's another thing. There are no consequences. The consequences, if any, I feel like we're teaching our kids that you could do whatever you want and it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen. I believe that in the state of Texas, that students that are under the age of 10, if they assault someone, there are no legal as far as criminal or the police are involved. Now, I know people think 3rd grade, kindergarten, come on, they're babies. We have people bitten on a daily basis. Sexually assaulted.
Yep.
We have students who are hit. We have staff that are hit, kicked, things thrown at them, concussions, and they're coming back into the classroom. Now, what does that say to a student, a third grader? Any student, any age, what does that say to them when they just watched their teacher get assaulted, or they themselves were assaulted, or their principal was assaulted, and that student's right back in class, going to recess, going to PE, going to music, having a great time, like nothing happened. That is not the right message.
It's not a recipe for success.
No, and we're setting the students that are having those issues, we're setting them up for failure.
Right.
Real life is not going to say, you get a lollipop, you get to go back and do whatever you want after you hit someone. No, you're going to go to jail.
That's right. That's why there's, we discuss the school to prison pipeline.
And you mentioned about third grade and reading. When I was getting my master's degree, there was a research study that said third graders who are not reading on grade level, the propensity to be in jail by
it's exponentially higher. That's correct.
And reading, basic reading. And so when we students won't do their work, but we're expected to
pass them.
We're expected to pass them. We're expected to engage them. That's another big buzzword, engagement. How can you engage a student who refuses, and then when you push them, come on, Johnny, you can do this, and they blow up and they start throwing chairs. Who in their right mind is going to go there every single day?
Right. So then little Johnny just gets passed ahead, right? It's called social promotion, right? We just promote them. I hear about this all the time. I had a teacher from down in South Texas who he was brought in to teach high school courses, and he was an accountant, a CPA. So smart man. This was second career, kind of like you had. He was like, I want to go back and do good things.
Yes.
And he went into the classroom in high school to teach algebra. And he lasted, I think, for one semester because
very common.
He went through all the training, and he sent me screenshots of this, the training of you cannot give students anything below a 50. I mean, it said it right there in their training. You must give students every opportunity until the end of the course to complete any work. There's no zeros. There's no actual deadlines. You can give them, but you can't enforce them. And there were parts in the thing about special needs students about if they can't get it, you still need to do, I don't know exactly what it said, but it was something like that. Do everything and watch them, and then give them the grade that they would need to move forward if they've tried their best. And he was livid, and the straw that broke the camel's back, he sent me screenshots of the grades that he, I guess, electronically enters in, and the grades that were tallied for a couple students that were released, and they didn't match. And he said they went in and changed my grades.
I've heard that. And you can't change a teacher's grade. You can't pressure them to change a grade.
Well, he said he wouldn't, but he could see.
But I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Where they're changing grades.
In high schools throughout Texas.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And he was so frustrated.
You're not helping that child.
That was it. He was like, what are you doing?
And then if they decide to go to college, if they can go to college, they're going to expect that in college.
It's like 70%
they're going to expect
kids,
that in their job if they get a job.
And that's not going to happen.
No.
And these kids are going to college and needing remedial classes that we should have been teaching in 10th grade. 8th grade, that, 5th grade.
Elementary.
Right. How are you sending kids to college that can't read? I mean, they just released, I read an article, it was in the past year, talking about how at elite colleges, the Ivy Leagues, kids are reading half the books now that they used to read 50 years ago. And they were tying it back to just attention span. Kids didn't have to read in K through 12, even at the most prestigious universities. And also technology. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. I send my children to a classical public charter school. One of the top reasons is because I don't want my kindergartner handed an iPad. And yet all across Texas, Our babies whose brains are forming, whose prefrontal cortex, regulating their emotions, is forming. We're shoving technology into their face. Are you hearing other teachers talk about the problems with technology?
I have heard and have read a lot about this. Students come to upper elementary, they don't know how to hold a pencil.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. They're writing, you can't read it because they're always on a screen. They're tapping. I taught pre-K, and what I thought was so interesting about pre-K is teaching we would put shaving cream on the table and have them write their letters out.
Yeah.
And to get their hands
that dexterity.
moving. Yes.
Yeah, to build those muscles.
Yes. And we don't have pre-K on the campus I'm at, so I can't really speak to what they do. But I know that and this was many years ago, when I taught pre-K, that was like the foundation of what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were teaching the letter sounds and,
of course.
and colors and shapes, but we were teaching them, that we were strengthening those muscles and getting them to, and now we see so many students that can't write, or they refuse to write because it's so hard for them.
Right.
That they melt down. They just refuse. Right. They won't do it. They want to be on their Chromes. And I think there's a time and a place. We are in the technological age. We need to be able to do that. But these students, they don't know how to research. Right. But yet they're on the computer all the time. Well, they're not doing educational things. They're Googling one of their cartoon characters and how to draw it. I've heard of students that just flat out refuse. They will do work. And when I say work, I say that loosely. They'll do what they want to do on the computer, and they consider work. And if they don't get the Chrome, they melt down.
It's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
I know many school districts have banned, I guess is the word, that they don't allow students to have technology. They have a Chromebook, but they don't allow them to have their phones or earbuds, those type of things, because it was being a distraction. Yeah. And I know in elementary school, I've heard of phones going off, and students have to get in touch with their parents. Right. And it's almost like you're cutting off their hand. They can't function without it. I'm guilty. Yeah. I caught myself trying to watch a really good movie for the 8th time.
And scrolling.
Yes.
It rewires our brains.
It does.
Even adults.
It does, because I put it down and I caught myself and I thought, no, I'm not doing this.
Right.
But
your brain is developed enough to recognize those signs.
And I didn't grow up with that.
Correct.
Flip phones were in the late 90s.
Right.
We didn't have these things.
I remember when I was growing up, we had a built-in bookshelf right next to the fireplace, and we were just a regular family. When we got to watch some cartoons, but my parents, when I would ask questions, they would say, go look it up either in the dictionary or the encyclopedias. That was what that bookshelf was for.
That was our Google.
That was Google. I mean, I vividly remember that. I would have to get up from the dinner table, go get the encyclopedia and go look something up. Especially my dad loves history. And so he would ask questions about, historical things. And so that was it. And the whole process of it teaches you as you're growing.
Absolutely. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to become a teacher was, first of all, my entire elementary school, Thornton Elementary School, Temple, Texas, best school ever. Everyone in there loved us. I mean, we were their kids. Yeah. Took care of us. And my 5th grade teacher, and I'm going to say her name. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Marlene Lostovica. Oh, she was my my science and social studies teacher. Yeah. We would do current events. And this was in the early 80s. And we would talk about it and discuss and then research. A few years ago, I was able to give her the Golden Apple Award. Yes. Okay. And I was 20 years ago is when I was going into education. Okay. And I mentioned, and our principal was there, and she's still around. I mentioned she brought a hogshead. They were ranchers.
Okay.
And she still has a ranch close to where I teach. Mm-hmm. And she brought a hogshead in, and I brought that up. And she said, Miss Daly, to the principal, do you remember? She goes, yes, ma'am, I had reservations. But we got to.
You learned.
And some kids were like, ugh. Yes. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I started loving science. Okay. But we got to talk and experience. We raised chicks. We don't have time for that. Yeah. Because we have to teach to the test. I will say this, in the district I work in, we do promote growth. We want to see growth. Mm-hmm. We're not focused, and my administrator, we really want to see kids' growth, whether they're star ready or not. As long as they're growing, that's the point. But it becomes very hard when you have these parameters that you're expected to teach or meet.
While also being a behavioral therapist, a psychologist, cleaning your classroom up, a nurse, a parent.
Yes.
Wow. There's a lot going on for teachers.
There's a whole lot.
Is there anything else that you haven't shared that you think that legislators and other teachers who feel the same thing and leadership in our state need to know how the teachers feel and what you need to be successful?
Well, first thing that came to mind is I believe there's a law or a rule that schools cannot out of school suspend a student if they're, I think it's second grade, under third grade. Mm-hmm. And I understand they're little. Come on. Why would a student deserve to be suspended? Mm-hmm. Come and walk the halls. Talk to the teachers.
Okay.
We have.
What stories have you heard? Violence?
Oh, absolutely. Principals having black eyes.
Oh, my.
Paraprofessionals having concussions.
Oh.
Teachers being choked. It's bad. And these are little kids.
Right.
I don't know what is causing this. I don't know why it's becoming so prevalent, but it's happening. And we have to sit as educators. Usually it's the principals. They have to deal with that all day long. Hours upon hours of being assaulted. The administrators can restrain kids so they won't hurt themselves, but they're often being bitten,
right?
Head-butted.
No one should be.
No one. It's abuse.
It's abuse. 100%.
But it's also abuse to that child because they're not getting the help that they need.
Right. They're in the wrong environment.
The school is not the environment, or at least it's not set up to be the environment to help that child.
Correct.
Now, I would say look at that, please, because I think if we started suspending students when they're very violent, I'm not talking tipping a chair over.
Right.
I'm talking violent.
Right.
You know, adults have
black eyes.
Yes, things
bite marks to the bleed.
Other people would be arrested for
assault.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing we can do, and we have to deal with it day in and day out. We're not teaching that child that his or her behavior is not appropriate. Also, we have parents that think, well, what did you do to provoke that?
Right.
I'm trying to de-escalate the situation. Right. Educators, we are trained to do that.
Sure.
Think about that, because maybe if we started holding, and not all parents, I know I have a lot of great parents and they're very supportive, but I have heard of other situations where parents blame the teacher or blame the principal.
Right.
Well, if we hold those parents accountable for their child's actions, maybe we'll get some change.
Yep. Absolutely.
We're perpetuating the situation. Other kids see it and see that kid got away with it, so now I'm going to start acting out to get what I want. And it just
snowballs.
It does.
For the whole classroom.
The whole classroom.
How do you teach them?
Honestly, I take some moments and breaths. I've done a lot of that over the last few years. I remember that they're little kids.
Yeah.
And I'm here for them. And I let it go. And I just get back to teaching. And I just act like it didn't happen. And then I go home and cry with my friends. I'll meet my friends or my husband. God bless him.
Yeah. Yeah, because he can't like seeing his wife treated this way.
And he doesn't understand. He thinks, well, it's just kind of like babysitting. No.
Right, no.
Babysitters charge more, first of all.
Right.
It's not. I mean, we're trying to be everything to everyone.
There's no such thing.
No. I applaud the parents that speak up and advocate for their child. I applaud the ones that have our backs. We have, parents. Sometimes
parents
that's
want what
like
you want. The majority of parents.
Yes, they do. They really do. And I've had parents that tell me, I don't think we would have made it had it been for this teacher or that teacher. And I know I wouldn't be where I'm at if it had not been for Thornton Elementary.
Yeah.
I know it for pretty much a fact.
Yeah.
We want to do the right thing. Parents want to do the right thing. We have to stop catering. That's one thing. We cater the squeaky wheel to a very small group
that controls
I've had
the atmosphere.
Yes.
An opportunity for 95% of the classroom.
Yes. I've heard of teachers being told by parents that my child will go to the bathroom whenever they want. You cannot restrict my child's access to the restroom. And as a teacher, I think that's not rational because, one, if your child leaves the classroom, I can't keep them safe. I am not there. So if we have a situation, we have a lockdown, I can't keep your child safe. They're in the bathroom. Once I look around the halls and shut my doors, get any kids that are out in the halls, get them in, I can't open that door again. So safety. Number two, they're missing out on learning. And I am going to let your child, we have bathroom breaks. We let, and I have this thing, I'm like, can it wait until we're done with this?
Right.
No, go. I'm not a tyrant.
Sure, right.
But parents, I feel like some parents feel teachers are being tyrants in the classroom, and we're not. Sure, they're bad apples. We have rules, and they're there for a reason. I know if you have a special situation, a medical situation, of course, we're going to let you go when you need to, and we're going to make sure if we have a substitute, that sub knows, we're going to give them
little Johnny needs to go. Yeah.
And it's almost like a gotcha mentality.
Yeah.
And that's got to stop. I think parents, for the most part, know we're on their side.
Yes.
We wouldn't be here. We're parents. But there's that little part that blames everything on the teachers.
Right.
And, being asked, what did you do to provoke? You're asking an adult?
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I understand we don't want blind trust. We don't want to go in and just think everything is fine.
Right.
You want to make sure you know what's going on.
But parents have to be responsible.
Absolutely.
And that is true. Truthfully, that's what all of this is about. The parent empowerment movement. I always say it's the parent empowerment movement. It's the teacher empowerment movement. And it's the property taxpayer empowerment movement because one, only 31 cents on the dollar goes to our great teachers. And that is rigged, to use your word. That is wrong. So that's first off. And there is no taxpayer that is okay with that. That a system steers it out of the classroom to unnecessary bureaucracy, unnecessary admin, unnecessary Taj Mahal style football stadiums and schools. Our teachers are our most valued precious gifts with our children for 8 hours a day. So that's it. I mean, the teacher empowerment movement. Teachers have got to be able to discipline in their classroom. They've got to be able to hold students accountable. They've got to be able to say, this is not the right environment. We need this child in a better placement. Maybe there's a school near you, I know, that takes children, maybe not with behavioral issues, but that focuses on dyslexia and autism, and they're thriving. And these kids are doing wonderful because they're in the right environment. They're in the right placement. And that's what this is really about, is making sure that every child has access to the very best education to prepare them, making sure our teachers are respected and have the ability to teach. And making sure that we're preparing the next generation of Texans to launch and maybe become the next teacher.
Exactly.
The next business leader. whatever it is.
You said respect. That is what's lost.
Yeah.
There's no respect.
Yeah.
Teachers, we used to be highly respected.
Yeah.
Everybody loved us. I loved mine.
Of course.
I wanted to be just like them.
Yeah.
And now, what did you do? Why didn't you?
And that's
Instead
wrong.
of working together.
Right.
We're here for the same reason.
Yeah.
And when a student sees their parent disrespect a teacher, what do you think they're going to do?
Disrespect the teacher.
Yes.
That's right.
And I've heard teachers say, "Oh, the kid said, my mom said I could just walk out." Well, that's disrespect.
That is.
And as an educator, what do? You can't leave the class to go get that student. You can call an administrator. Administrators oftentimes are dealing with other students, are in meetings. So
yeah,
it's a rigged system, and no one is winning.
Before we wrap up, can you look in this camera right here? We are in the 89th legislative session. Your representative and 149 others, I believe they want to do what's right for teachers and kids. Talk to them and tell them what teachers need to stop fleeing the classrooms, to take control back, to educate the next generation of Texans. Talk to them, please.
I would encourage you, come to the classrooms unannounced. Just come, show up, and ask to walk through the halls and listen. You're going to hear things that you're not going to expect. You're going to see things that you're not going to expect. And we're doing the best we can. We need help. We need people to understand that we are here for those students, that we are here to make a difference. We need students to get what they need. We're not able to do it all. Please don't put anything else on our plate, because you're going to continue to lose teachers. Talk to teachers. Tell them, ask them, what is it like? Ask them to give you scenarios that they've dealt with. Have them explain how their day goes each day, how it starts in the morning and how it ends in the afternoon. Teachers are there before the bell rings, and we're there well after the bell rings. We're not asking to become rich. We just want what's best for our students. I love this state. I'm a Texan through and through, and I want Texas to continue to be a great state. So please talk to the teachers, talk to the parents, talk to the students. Ask them, how is it like being in that classroom? How do you feel when that student trashes out your teacher's library and tears up everything? How does that make you feel? And ask them, what would you like? Would you like for to be in a classroom where you're not scared? Would you like to be able to come to school and not see your teacher be choked or your administrator have a black eye? We've got to get this discipline under control. It starts at home. I can't control what goes on at home, but you can help us help Texas by having students that are under third grade, if they are violent, have them suspended. Don't have them come back to class. You're sending the wrong message. You're sending a message that students can do what they want and get what they want without any repercussions. Again, I encourage you, just come to the schools. Don't announce it, just show up. You don't want to see the dog and pony show. You want to see the real thing, just show up. You're welcome to my classroom anytime. And thank you for working for us. We really appreciate it.
Jen, you are so courageous. I'm so grateful that you were willing to come and speak for thousands and thousands of teachers that share your love for kids and share your need to be empowered to control your classroom, to discipline when necessary, and to educate our students. So thank you for your courage of saying the quiet parts out loud. Thank you all for joining us on Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. And now you have the power.